Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today, and well, I bet you probably thought you saw the last of this game on my channel. I really just fell off this game after that last video I recorded. I was trying to play with some really janky decks that just weren't working out, and there was a lot of other things. I was trying to force myself to do content, and just really wasn't having fun with it, and took a bit of a hiatus from the game, but I've come back since about a month ago, and really been having a lot of fun with this game, in part due to the deck that I am going to be showcasing for you guys today. So this does mean the return of Legends of Runeterra content. Now, I'm not sure how often I'm going to be doing it. It certainly probably won't be once a week, but every so often I do intend to put out these videos when I have a deck that I'm particularly excited about and want to show off to you guys. So we're going to go ahead and show you guys what we're playing for this week, and hopefully we can get a couple of wins for you. This is going to be the deck we are bringing to the games today. This is Pyke'Sai Lurk. Now, this was actually the deck I was experimenting with shortly before my hiatus. I really just could not get this deck to work. I thought the mechanic was just kind of dead on arrival. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very fun. The mechanic is extremely parasitic, but I just can't stop myself from trying to make it work. So after a bit of time, I feel like I finally hit on a recipe for success with this deck in order to try and make Lurk, which is probably the worst mechanic in the game, actually function as intended. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Lurk mechanic, the entire idea is that every time you attack with a Lurker ally on top of your deck, they lurk and give all other Lurkers +1/+0 permanently. This means that this deck can come out pretty hard and fast with a bunch of small, cheap, aggressive guys, and eventually, over multiple turns of lurking and attacking, really ramp up everybody into some absolutely big bunguses where every single card you play is a threat for your opponent. We're going to go ahead and do the card by card real quick, though, to let you guys know what I'm playing. One of the things is this probably won't surprise you if you play Lurk, because there just aren't that many Lurker cards, but I'll go through this regardless. At the 1 mana mark, we're actually running quite a few cards. The 1-drops here are Sharkling and Xer'sai Hatchling. I really just want to make sure I see a 1-drop card in my opening hand to make sure I can get off to the races and start lurking as soon as possible. And they both have their own sort of advantages and disadvantages. The extra health on Sharkling means it doesn't die to things like Vile Feast, so I am guaranteed that first attack. And Xer'sai Hatchling has Fearsome, which means that basically it can't be blocked if it comes down turn 1, and can then guarantee me that I get a Lurk proc off without actually losing a card. I've also got 3 copies of Bloodbait here because it not only guarantees a Lurk proc by putting a Snapjaw Swarm up on top, but Snapjaw Swarm is actually one of the most useful cards in the deck because of the fact that it starts a free attack as it's summoned. This means that you can actually lurk on your opponent's turn, which then means that you can do things like attack on your turn with the lurker to lurk, and then play Snapjaw Swarm on their turn to lurk, and then on your turn Bloodbait, so you have a Snapjaw Swarm on top, swing with your previous Snapjaw Swarm, lurk, then draw the Snapjaw Swarm on your opponent's turn. There's just a lot that you can do, and that's why we're running 3 copies of Bloodbait as well as the 3 copies of Snapjaw Swarm, because it just ends up comboing really, really well together and allows you to lurk up significantly quicker than you used to be able to. I've also got 3 copies of Aspiring Chronomancer here. The predict is super nice. The one disadvantage is that he's not a lurker, so if any of these are on top of my deck, I'm going to be really sad when I go to combat, but I still think it's important to try and have the consistency, and also he blocks significantly better than all of the other lurkers, which is something that the deck really struggles with, so he ends up being a pretty decent inclusion into the deck regardless. 3 copies of Bone Skewer and 3 copies of Call the Pack. These are both useful cards due to the fact that they put a card from your either hand or battlefield, respectively, back on top of your deck. This means that if you're stacking a Lurker, you're guaranteed your Lurk proc. Call the Pack is useful because it replaces cards in your hand. Your Lurk deck tends to run out a lot of cards very quickly, so Call the Pack is a good way to sort of compensate for that. And Bone Skewer is just removal. Lurkers can get really big, really fast, and because this is a one-sided strike for 2 mana, it basically just is destroy target unit, unless they have things like barrier or that kind of thing. So, very, very powerful card, and another good way of stacking up some of the champions of the deck to then lurk with later in the turn. 3 copies of Redfin Hammersnout. This gives an enemy vulnerable, so you're able to actually pick and choose what's blocking you and potentially use this as sort of pseudo removal. Again, your lurkers get really big, so even though you do have to declare attacks to remove the card that you made vulnerable, it still ends up removing the card that you want dead regardless. 3 copies of Rek'Sai, the first champion of the deck, and what I would argue is the heart and soul of the deck, because she lets you double down on your lurk procs, because when she lurks or attacks, she gives all lurker allies everywhere +1/+0. This is independent from her lurk proc, meaning that she actually just lets you stack up significantly quickly. The one disadvantage is that she keeps disappearing back in the deck when she's summoned, if she hasn't flipped, but that's what things like Call the Pack and Bone Skewer are for, to put her someplace where I can still trigger her effects, but then not lose her permanently and end up redrawing her or putting her back in the hand regardless. The flipped Rek'Sai is just a win condition. You replenish the entire hand, and you have a ginormous beater who's just going to start overwhelming your opponent's defenses, and she ends up being very strong once you're able to actually get to that point, so definitely looking to start a hand with a copy of her at the very least. 3 copies of Xer'sai Caller. It's basically Aspiring Chronomancer, but is a lurker, and therefore can get really big. That's why it's 1 more mana expensive. 3 copies of Pyke. I think Pyke is a little less important to the deck than Rek'Sai, but he can still be a very powerful card, especially because as he flips, he can immediately trigger this effect and just wipe your opponent's board. So even if you're taking a bunch of really bad attacks, if Pyke strikes first and flips off of it, he just kills everything. The most useful thing about Pyke is the Death from Below. If he lurks, he turns into this, which is just a removal spell that also summons your champion, which is really powerful. The one disadvantage I think I have is he's 4 mana for a 3 health card, which just dies to everything, so that's a little disappointing. And if you don't have a lot of lurk procs, if you're struggling for that, for example, then he just ends up really not being very good. But we're just going to run him anyways because he's the only other lurk champion. 3 copies of Xerxa'Reth, the Undertitan. This is a really useful 5-cost card because of how powerful it is if you're able to get it to 8 or more power. This is, I believe, the same exact amount of lurk procs that you need in order to flip the Rek'Sai as well. So being able to drop Xerxa'Reth into Rek'Sai and then attack your opponent, flipping the Rek'Sai, you just kind of kill them from there because it's too much overwhelm, and the fact that Xerxa'Reth has so much protection built in with Spell Shield just makes it really hard for them to remove. Xer'sai Dunebreaker is a card I'm not that big of a fan of, but it has Overwhelm by default, which makes it a little bit better in some situations than Xerxa'Reth, even though it's a mana more expensive, and the 6 health is huge. It makes it really hard to die. And finally, a single copy of Jawfish. This is a little swingy because the strikes a random enemy can include doubling up on enemies that already would have died, so you can end up wasting procs of this. And again, if you're not able to lurk very significantly, it ends up not being very good. But I like it because there are some situations where you'll play Jawfish and just blow your opponent out. And also you can get Jawfish off of things like Rek'Sai and Call the Pack, so I feel like I don't need to run multiple copies, but having one in the deck isn't too big of a deal. And that is the deck here, guys. Very consistent. I've been having just so much fun playing this deck. It really rekindled my love for the game. So let's go ahead and jump into game here and see if we can't pull this off. Hopping into game here for game 1 against Silco Best Daddy, playing the Thresh Viego deck here. Splashing in Ionia, presumably for probably counter spells and some of the other good stuff. Ionia's in a really good spot right now. Not that it's ever not been in a good spot. And this hand is really jank. So let's go ahead and mulligan these away. Probably should have done the Call the Pack as well, but I'm hoping for at least a 1-drop. Okay, we're coming down with the Rek'Sai. I can't be too mad about that. Can't top deck a 1-drop either, which is a little disappointing, but we'll see how this goes, especially being with the attack token. I'm kind of sad, but another Rek'Sai as well. So again, this is a really slow start for this deck, which I'm not a big fan of. And the worst part about this is I'm going to play the Rek'Sai, the Xer'sai Caller, but there's really not that much I'm actually going to get off of the value of the predict, because I'm just going to play this Call the Pack to guarantee my Rek'Sai trigger. And he's going to get a guaranteed blocker here that he's not that worried about. So we'll Call the Pack, try to bring out something else. There's the Sharkling, and of course we got another Jawfish here. This will be a double proc because of the Rek'Sai, so depending on what he wants to do, I doubt he wants to actually trade with the Carnivoran Soldier. He'll just take his free block, and I think the worst thing for me here is that my opponent has gotten 3 spell mana banked up. He was kind of allowed to do that, so... And of course we draw the Rek'Sai again. He's just going to end the turn. Okay, we'll run out the Sharkling here as well, just to put the corkscrews to him a little bit more. Bank some of that spell mana, and now the fun thing is we can bring out this Rek'Sai because I have the Bone Skewer and a target for it to actually stack her back on top. Okay, so he's got the Thresh here. That's totally fine. So I think what I can probably do... So I can Redfin Hammersnout to give it vulnerable, so I can just try to kill it off the Rek'Sai attack, because I might not be guaranteed Lurk, but I am guaranteed Rek'Sai. And this is also going to put my opponent in a really bad spot, even if I don't have a target for the Bone Skewer afterwards. Like, it's just going to be too much damage, right? Like, he's taking 10 at minimum here, which is absolutely absurd. Okay, so he's going to Syncopation here, which is kind of funny, because I am still going to do this. His Carnivoran Soldier then gets to live, but his Thresh does not, and that's very important for me. It also stacks my Rek'Sai, which, again, I really need to do, and he's taking 11. That's how much damage this deck can do if you're able to get a couple of procs of Lurk, and I've had 2 double Rek'Sai procs here, which just makes it really hard for my opponent to handle. So we'll run out the Dunebreaker. And Rek'Sai, on the next attack, as long as I have a Lurk proc, will guarantee that she flips, and I'm pretty sure the game's over at this point. My opponent doesn't have mana for Ruination. He theoretically could if he doesn't play anything else and fully banks his spell mana here, but okay, he is going to play the Camavorran Soldier, which I think still puts him, yeah, it still puts him on Ruination mana if he wants to go for it, but I think he's just trying to, that's fine, I'll take 2, I really don't care. I don't know why you wouldn't swing the Greenglade Lookout as well. So now the question is this greedy? I have a second Rek'Sai, so I'm not that worried about it, and I may play this Rek'Sai's Call the Pack just to guarantee my Lurk proc this turn. Ah, he's playing the Hydravine deck. So we will try to guarantee my Lurk proc goes off here, because I really want to make sure that this actually happens, because otherwise Rek'Sai is going to go back on the deck. We'll go to combat, we guarantee my Lurk, we guarantee my Rek'Sai trigger here. Rek'Sai is going to flip and replenish my hand even more with 3 additional Lurkers, and I just have so much gas, I'm pretty sure the game's over at this point, barring my opponent playing something absolutely crazy. Especially with the double Overwhelm cards. The Hydravine was a pretty good hit for him, but he's still taking a minimum of 3 off of that if it blocks something that can kill it, so that he's taking 5, 6, like, he's still dead. And the funny thing is, I do have the Snapjaw Swarm in hand to go to combat an additional time this turn and just really kill him. So, I don't actually know what his thought process... Okay, he didn't have anything, he's just taking the blocks the best he can. And, well, you know, that was a slow start to the game, but if you have the double Rek'Sai in hand and you're able to keep doing her like that, and my opponent just kind of didn't play anything, you just can't do much about Lurk. So that's kind of exactly how the deck is supposed to work here. So we'll go into game 2, see if we can't do it again. Welcome back, everyone, to game 2 against 2 Motos Emunkara with a Karma, Shadow Isles, Ionia deck. Anytime you see Karma in a deck list, you know it's going to be something absolutely degenerate. So we're going to go ahead and mulligan this away. We are on the evens this game, so that makes things a little bit more frustrating for me in particular. I feel like the Lurk deck really wants to be going first if it can, but we'll run out the Sharkling because we do have the option of Bloodbaiting on his turn. And then just guaranteeing that this Lurk proc actually goes off, and we've got another Bloodbait here as well, so we're really going to be off to the races as far as lurking goes every turn. That's guaranteed because I have a Snapjaw Swarm on top, and this should be 2. I don't think there's anything he's got for 3 mana that does 2 damage, and this is where the extra health comes in. I would be, like, totally scared right there of a Vile Feast, but, like, literally not an option against Sharkling, so... He's, of course, going to come in with Eye of the Dragon, which is just an absurdly good card if you can keep it alive. I will still, I know this is going to play right into his hands, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm still going to Snapjaw Swarm, and we have a Blind Lurk trigger, so I do like that. Blind Lurk triggers are kind of how this deck lives and dies. So this is just going to be a trade. He's going to get to draw a spell. There's nothing I can do about it, but I think this is a fair trade for us both. I like getting the Lurk trigger here, and I'm sure he likes being able to draw the spell. And he doesn't actually have the ability to trigger Eye of the Dragon's effect on this turn, which I do like that. Now, I think what I do want to do is get this going with the Redfin Hammersnout so I can try to remove that if at all possible. He could totally hit me with the Twin Disciplines and keep her alive. That's like one of the best tech cards in Ionia right now, but see what he's got. He's going to Vile Feast for 1. That seems odd. But so we are going to do this then, just because... Oh, I totally forgot the Bloodbait there, but we got the blind trigger, so hey, no punish. Okay, and he has the Steel Tempest to guarantee. That's why he played the Vile Feast, just so he's got his 2 spells a turn, and can not only keep her alive, but also get a little bit of value off of her on the next turn. A little sad about that, but I can't complain too much. I'm going to go ahead and Chronomancer here, actually, because this is an okay time to do it. Really? Not that much I actually want. I think I will put the Xerxa'Reth on top, though. I think that's going to be the best option into this matchup. And he's going to get his lifelinker, unfortunately. And I don't really care about my health total, so I'm just going to let him get that in. Will Snapjaw Swarm. I should have Bloodbaited, but again, Blind Lurk trigger, which I do quite like. And this is one of the disadvantages about the Lurk deck in general, is that it really is kind of frustrating how many specific cards you have to play in order to make the deck work, because you need a critical mass of Lurkers. If you don't hit your Lurk triggers, this deck is awful. Oh, he's playing the Catalog of Regrets deck. Now, this is the first time actually seeing this card come down. I'm expecting some really degen stuff right now. Okay, so he's Deep Meditation, so he has the potential to get a fleeting copy of that in hand on the next turn, which is going to really let him turbo through his deck for all of his answers. So that's actually kind of scary for me. It is my attack token, though. I guess the question I have is, do I want to get greedy, or do I want to... I'll play it safe. He's in Shadow Isles. He could be sitting on some board wipes here. We're just going to try and kill her here. We got another blind lurk trigger. Or no, that one wasn't blind. It did have the Bloodbait. So, because this is going to be 13 damage. Assuming he has nothing, which he does here from the look of it. Probably more than one thing. Obviously, if you got a deep breathing off of the Catalog of Regrets, then he's got potentially 2 more spells. Okay, he's going to Steel Tempest again to keep her alive. This is a card you don't see very often. I feel like it just doesn't do that much nowadays, but we're still in for all the damage. Could be main deck and Grasp of the Undying, of course, which, again, is a card that's going to make me a little sad, but we've got him on a bit of a clock here. Okay, Aristocrat to stall for time. I really don't want to get blown. No, because I'm going to assume, even if he's got Ruination in hand, he won't want a Ruination while he's still got Eye of the Dragon down. Like, I feel like he just would have let her die if he didn't have it. And he's got Go Hard. Okay, that's another part of the deck that he's playing. And especially because he can Catalog of Regrets, and if he's lucky, he'll get another Go Hard in hand and just be able to keep going hard off of that. Okay, in comes the Lifelinker. We'll just take it. I really don't care. Snapjaw Swarm goes in. Another blind lurk trigger. Thank you, deck. And now the question is, does he want to go down to 4, or does he want to burn a removal spell on the Snapjaw? Yeah, but he's got the free block. So he's not that worried. And I do think on my next turn it makes sense to... He's blocking with her. Okay, so this means he probably has the Ruination in hand. So I'm not going to play anything else. Yep, there it is. Okay, so now the fun part is that because I still have a Xerxa'Reth in hand, I can run it out on the next turn and still get in for quite a bit of damage. And Xerxa'Reth, funnily enough, will get her effect when she goes to combat. He actually had the Go Hard. That's funny. So Xerxa'Reth will get her effect, and I'm not even going to bother waiting around because this is going to be 8 damage that he basically can't stop at all because of the spell shield. So I could have tried to run out the Xerxai Dunebreaker, but if he got another Ruination off the back of that, like, I'm just kind of hosed. Okay, Eye of the Dragon, and I'm just going to hold on to what I've got here. Because Xerxa'Reth is enough of a threat that he has to try and answer her in some regard. He did have an extra Ruination, but couldn't play it because of Spell Shield. Let's see. Let's do this. And now kind of see what he wants. He's evaluating. He's trying to think what I have in my hand, because if he does play out removal spells, if he pays too much mana, okay, he does have a Vengeance here to kill Xerxa'Reth. But now I know he doesn't have mana for another one, so we can bring out Dunebreaker, which sadly doesn't have the resiliency of Xerxa'Reth, but does at least mean I can go straight to combat on his turn and just try to kill him. Pike in hand as well. Not that useful, but we'll do this. Lurk trigger as well. And this should be game unless he's got something. It's another copy of Vengeance. Okay, so he's staying alive here. He's doing it just barely. Now, Pike's actually almost big enough that he'll flip on his own. Oh, you know, I should have known he had a second copy of that card in his hand due to the fact that he's got Catalog of Regrets. Oh, but he didn't actually play the ephemeral copy. Interesting. Yeah, that's a free attack. There's nothing I'm going to do about that. We'll play Hatchling because he actually can't block this. And this means that... Oh, okay, he's got the Karma, so he's finally going to come down with her. And so I'm assuming that this is where the degeneracy really starts. Karma is just one of those characters that just really makes you do some really silly things with your deck, so... Okay, double Vengeance. He's out of Vengeances now. Not that that's much consolation for me. It does mean that Karma basically has to die to keep him alive. We're going to run out the Dunebreaker, though, and just kind of say, do you have any more removal? I might be able to force another Ruination here if he's got 3 copies in the deck. I guess the question is, what do you have? I actually didn't get my Lurk trigger there. That's kind of sad. Okay, he's dead. We got it. So we finally burned him out of removal options. And this is one of the advantages of the deck, is every single card is a threat. Even the 1-mana cards that you draw later in the game. I mean, you saw the Xer'sai Hatchling was a 9/1. Like, at that point, anything is a problem for your opponent to deal with. And even if they all have low health totals and can die, the fact is that they still have to kill them because they can't really take that much damage. So, 2 for 2 so far. Let's see if we can make it 3. Welcome back, everybody, to Game 3 against JJJ PPP, playing the Senna Veigar deck, which I've had really bad luck against this deck, and I don't feel like it's that good, but it's absolutely been bodying me recently, so maybe there's something about it that I don't know. I'm going to mulligan pretty aggressively here, and that's like the most perfect opening hand I could possibly have. The only way this is better is if I'm on the evens here, but oh my god. Or if I'm on the odds. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal hand. I kind of just wanna... yeah, you know, off to the races. Let's do it. We actually got some pretty usable cards off that as well. We'll get the double Rek'Sai proc. I have another Call the Pack, so I can do the exact same thing on my next turn, which is crazy. Okay, there's the Conchologist. That makes sense. Manifest, I think, is one of those mechanics that's absolutely crazy because it's just free card replacement. Like, you never actually lose hand advantage if you play a card with Manifest, which is absurd. And there are other cards in Runeterra that do this, that, like, replace themselves with a card when they're played, but, like, they're either completely random, there's no way for you to guess what it might be, or... Okay, let's do this again. Or it's something, like, that's guaranteed and is kind of a known quantity you can plan around. Oh, I can't do math. Okay. Well, that was a mistake. Alright, so he's got his darkness in hand. Yeah, he's he's hitting me back with it there too. Alright, well, you know, fortunately, the Rek'Sai I'll just redraw her on this turn. A little unfortunate, not gonna lie. But we'll go to combat. We're going to get our Lurk trigger regardless. We're making him block out here because he cannot afford it, which actually means he has no targets for his darkness either. I would assume he's going to try and hold that for something scary, though. Second Conchologist, so just more advantage. Not that I'm doing too bad on the advantage front myself, given that I've played 2 copies of Call the Pack, and I've just completely filled my hand with Lurkers. Oh, he's main decking Crawling Sensation. Either that or he got it off the Conchologist, not sure. But that's not a bad stall card, I have to think. Okay, Pokey Stick, because he's going to try and kill it with the darkness on the next turn. Not sure how I feel about that play. It kind of feels like you're 2 for winning yourself, but he's like so far ahead of the curve right now. I gotta think he's not that worried. Snapjaw Swarm in. Lurk proc, let's go. That's why I like playing this deck so much, because it's like every time you get a Lurk proc, it's like you're gambling and you're like really hoping that it works for you. Every so often you have a Rek'Sai or a Pyke on top of your deck and you're just like really happy about it. I don't know, it's fun. I'm gonna take 5 off this deck though, so you don't do anything. Yeah, just when you're summoned. Okay, that's totally fine. He's got 2 cost darkness though. I should keep that in mind. Alright, I can guarantee a Xerxa'Reth flip on this turn with Bloodbait, or a Xerxa'Reth effect. I guess it's not a flip. So that's actually pretty nice for me. He's going to be taking a minimum of 4 if he blocks with the Stilted Robemaker. Okay, he's got his Catalyzer, though, which that's a really good card as well. I think for the cost you pay for a 3-2 with upside, like, that's really good. But we're going to put the screws to him a little bit here with the Xerxa'Reth, because there's nothing he can do about it. He has to block with one of his 3 power guys. Okay, so he's gonna opt for minimum damage, it looks like. Okay, this is what I expected. I really didn't think he cares about his life total that much. Like, he'd much rather have the bonus darkness damage. Yeah, that's the funny part. You always see them looking at it like, okay, the spell shield goes away now, right? Not till the end of the turn. Double Snapjaw Swarm. And for those of you who may be wondering why I'm not playing multiple Snapjaw Swarms in a turn, it's because you can only ever lurk once per round. So there's no reason for me to play multiple Snapjaws, even if I know with the lurk that I have a lurker on top, because I can't do it more than once. You know, I didn't think about it. He does have the option of darknessing at fast speed now. Senna down. He's gonna choose not to do that because I'm assuming he wants to save that for the Xerxa'Reth. But I think honestly, if he plays the darkness, okay, yeah, he's going to remove this. when I'm summoned or attack. So he can get another darkness in hand here. His darkness right now is only doing 3. So if I run out another Xerxa'Reth, he can't swing Senna into her. He's going to do it regardless. So he may have some damage in hand. Yeah, actually, because if he darknesses the Xerxa'Reth, she dies automatically to the Senna hit. It's a little awkward. I think I'm just going to take the 7. Preserve Xerxa'Reth for a little bit longer. I can play the Rek'Sai on the next turn and go for the flip. Refill the hand. See how that goes. It's a little awkward knowing that he's got removal just sitting in hand. Especially if he comes down with like Vhagar or something on the next turn. But I don't think I want to lose Xerxa'Reth because I want to force him into a bit of an awkward situation. I would have lost the Xerxa'Reth for free as well, so see what he wants to do now. Okay, stress defense, which will prevent the Rek'Sai from flipping, sadly. Not sure why you would just play the darkness on the Xerxa'Reth like this either. We will still go to combat with the Rek'Sai, by the way. She won't die to anything. The sad part is she won't flip, and therefore she'll go back in my deck at the end of the round. But I can't really do anything about that. Electro Harpoon. Interesting card there. Okay. So actually, my life total's looking a little small here, but we do have a second Xerxa'Reth, so he kind of 2-for-1 himself. He's got another Catalyzer, sadly. There's the Lurk trigger. Rek'Sai's going off, making everyone even bigger. There we go with the spell shield and more damage. So we're in for 6 here at least. So he doesn't have to block with a Senna. Rek'Sai's actually got herself back up to her base stats. That's funny. Okay, and Darkness is now doing 4 damage. Got him down to 2, but I don't know that's going to be enough. If he hits a Vhagar, I think I just kind of lose off of that. Bloodbait isn't helpful. Oh, Y'Shahtali Sentinel. Yeah, because he can play this at fast speed, and it's going to do exactly 4 damage to me. The lifesteal as well is just really unfortunate. Nothing I can do about that, because the effect, unfortunately, lasts even if the Y'Shahtali Sentinel isn't on the battlefield. So we are going to lose this one, unfortunately. Again, I don't know what it is about this deck in particular. Maybe it just has a good matchup into Lurk. Okay, well, Sen, I don't know that you needed to flip the game. The game's over. You could have spared the time there. So I don't know what it is. I do think the deck's good. I'm not going to say, you know, oh, the Darkness deck is bad, but I feel like I've never won against it. I'm not sure if it's something I'm doing or if the deck is just like that efficient. So either way, I think I'm going to play one more, try to go out on a win here though. So stay tuned. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for the final game of the video today against Undead Summoner, playing the Nautilus Maokai deep deck. It's degenerate, it's reliable, it's consistent, it's really, really good, and I'm going to be playing against it today. So I'm not expecting to actually win this one, honestly. No one drop either. But we'll give it a go. The fun thing about Lurk is that you do end up with some really big bunguses in the late game that can actually kind of sort of go toe-to-toe with the big, deep creatures. So that's kind of funny. Also, sea monsters versus sea monsters. It's kind of fun. But we'll see how this goes. Okay, we can at least come down to Snapjaw Swarm. Got the free Lurk trigger as well, so that's fun. And a Rek'Sai on top. Okay, so we're actually in for 2 here. Plus, having double Rek'Sai in hand is pretty nice. Okay, he was actually trying to hold off on playing the Dreg Dredgers because he wanted to bank all of the mana. This is a fine trade. I don't care. They're both guys that have already kind of done what we needed them to do, so... but he was trying to bank the mana, but I think he decided he really wanted to try and get in for a little bit of extra value. So let's Xer'sai Caller here. Ooh, okay. As long as this doesn't die, I actually get to go to combat here and get my Death from Below in hand. Totally fine by this. So we have the Pyke. My opponent can see that particle effect, by the way. So if you're paying attention to the Lurk deck when they get their Lurk trigger, you actually can tell if they've got a Pyke on top. A little bit of anti-Lurk tech for you there if you wind up against this deck. Not that very many people play this deck, though, which is one of the things that I actually think is funny, no one plays this deck, which I feel like allows me to just sucker punch people in ways that they don't really expect. So I'm just going to do this because I don't want him to get any more lifesteal. He's already got the value off of the Deadbloom Wanderer. The fun part about this as well... Ooh, Bone Skewer. That is an interesting main deck option. I don't think I've ever seen the deep deck playing that. So the fun part is I still get my Pyke. Just because the spell fizzles doesn't mean the Pyke actually goes away. So that's actually kind of a nice little thing for me here. And I had another Pyke on top. That's really funny. So we'll just go for combat because it's going to be 7 damage. That gets Pyke just about halfway to his requirement. If I get a Lurk trigger on the next turn, it's even better for me. And now the key here is I want to leave mana up for this Pyke's Bone Skewer to keep my Pyke in the game. We'll take this Call the Pack because we'll top deck of that on the next turn. Bone Skewer. Oh, Jettison. How close does that get him? Not quite close enough. It does get him pretty close, however. Yeah, we will just kind of pass on that. I'll have the Call the Pack in hand on the next round, so I will be able to potentially triple Rek'Sai proc, which is really funny. And here's hoping he doesn't have another Bone Skewer, because if so, my Pyke is dead. And I played a spell that was another Pyke. No! He has the second Bone Skewer. Absolute travesty, absolute tragedy. I didn't have to go for that. I could have just said, fine, whatever, you got my Pyke, I'm just going to play another one, but the greed. So I do think the plan here is run out the Xerxa'Reth, because she's still big enough that there's nothing Devour the Depths can really do. He's actually pretty low on cards here. And so I think what we want to try to do, obscenely greedy, we're going to go for the triple Rek'Sai. I can't triple Rek'Sai because it's a Rek'Sai's Call the Pack. Dang. Okay. Never mind. It doesn't work the way I want it to. Oh, and that does get him deep, actually. So he's going to have his huge old dude there. So now the question is, if I Chronomancer and I'm lucky, I'll see a Rek'Sai and be able to put her on top. Yeah, you know what? Let's go for it. All right. It didn't work. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, Maokai. So I do want to do this because on the off chance I hit a Redfin, I got the Redfin. Oh my god. This guy's big mad. his Maokai's about to flip too. Is that last card Jettison? If it's okay, it's not Jettison. That's really funny. Okay, so I'm gonna pull like so. We get our Lurk trigger. We're gonna get our Rek'Sai trigger. This is gonna be a lot of damage. We're removing the... Why did I not get my Xerxa'Reth? Is it because it has to be a Lurk trigger? Interesting. I feel like I should have gotten the Xerxa'Reth. I feel like I've done this before and I've gotten the Xerxa'Reth, but for some reason it's not working out that way. That's fine. Okay, so we're getting rid of the Maokai, fortunately. He's going to gain a bunch of life back here, unfortunately, and we're doing some good damage to him, but I'm like 1 mass removal spell from losing the game. And the sad thing is my Rek'Sai runs away. I do have this second Rek'Sai in hand, so I'm not that worried. Jawfish as well, that's funny. Jawfish, go! Get him! Yeah! Alright, nicely done. So, he just ran out of options. He didn't see the Nautilus. He got deep super quick, but he really, I think, was staking a lot on that Maokai flip and then didn't get it. I feel like he can't have been running multiple copies of Nautilus, or they're just like all at the bottom of his deck, which is a problem with toss, is it tends to clump your champions at the bottom because they can't get tossed, but then they just kind of sit out down there. Either way, though, I'll take it. The deep deck tends to be really good, so I'm happy we got the win there. And hey, I'm happy this deck is working. I've tried to record this video before, and I think I lost every single game, and then I went on hiatus. So I'm happy to be coming back and playing this deck and for it to work, and I hope you guys are appreciating the content coming back as well. So let me know down in the comments what you thought of the deck today, and if you want me to keep doing more Runeterra content. I enjoy it. I've been enjoying playing the game again. Again, I don't know that I'll be doing it super consistently, but I do think it's been a lot of fun, so let me know all that down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well, plus Runeterra content on occasion. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.